Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for making the journey up here. I know that you had a long drive this morning, so welcome to so today I'm going to be talking about more or less just our watershed and the catchment areas here. So move on to the next slide there. And so we'll start with a brief history of Big White, then we'll go into the Ronda Lake and Powder Basin watersheds and kind of source to tap. The Big White watershed and catchment areas, a bit about the environmental assessments we've done, and some of the watershed management and conservation we've been doing over the years. So brief history of Big White and location here. So Big White's located, this is what it's supposed to look like. It's located on Big White Mountain. It's the highest summit in the Okanagan Highland between the Monarchy Mountains and the Okanagan Valley. It is the third largest ski resort in British Columbia, after Whistler Blackcomb and Sun Peaks. The mountain summit is about 2,300 meters with a vertical drop of 7,700 meters, and it's serviced by 16 lifts. The mountain receives about 750 centimeters of annual snowfall and has about 1,100 hectares of overall skiable terrain. Where we are now is about 1,755 meters above sea level. 5,800 feet is kind of the village area. It was founded by Cliff Surwa and Doug Mervyn and opened in 1963 with one T-bar. The first cabin and accommodation on the mountain were built in 1968, more or less, up over here in the original cluster of cabins. The next slide there. So Big White's watershed and surface water reservoirs. We have two distinct watersheds that serve as catchment to our surface water reservoirs. The two surface water reservoirs we have, Ronda Lake and Powder Basin, supply the village with drinking water and fire protection. The benefit of having these two sources in two different watersheds is it supports our efforts to manage the impacts on the watershed and supply. So this picture kind of shows on the right hand side where the blue is Ronda Lake and the catchment area for Ronda Lake. And then on the left is Powder Basin, and green is the catchment area for the Powder Basin watershed. Coming out of the Powder Basin there, that red line is Howland Creek, which joins the West Kettle River, and then coming out of the Ronda Lake side is Trapping Creek, which joins the West Kettle River as well. You can see the size difference in the two different watersheds. The Powder Basin is significantly bigger of a catchment area than the Ronda Lake side. Ronda Lake's water quality is arguably some of the best in the world. Our raw water UVT, which is ultraviolet transmittance, averages about 94–95%, whereas distilled water or demineralized water is 100%. So distilled water is basically pure water. So we're right up there. Our raw water is very, very clean. It is all due to the freshet, and that granite dome is all where we get our water from. There are very little minerals and organics in water. Yeah, and we're very fortunate to have the Okanagan Champagne powder to replenish this reservoir. But everybody in this group does know that it's actually Kootenai Boundary Champagne powder.
Because yeah, I've actually got a map of the Kettle River watershed just at the side here. If you want to sort of see where Big White fits in. Yeah.
A little source of tap. So the Ronda Lake water travels about 1.7 kilometers from Ronda Lake into our Ronda Lake treatment plant. Within the treatment plant, it's filtered and then disinfected by UV treatment and chlorinated. And then it's sent up to the treated water storage reservoir. And then from these reservoirs, it's distributed throughout the village by way of a network of pressure reducing station, isolation valve, and piping. And we monitor chlorine, turbidity, UVT, pH, and flow 24 hours a day by way of our SCADA system. A little bit about SCADA. So SCADA is, I want to provide data there, supervisory control and data acquisition. So SCADA systems play a vital role in ensuring continuous operation and optimization of the water treatment facilities. We receive alarm calls when anything is out of any of our set parameters, power outages or malfunctioning equipment. We're able to control dosing equipment, flow control valves, reservoir levels, and various other equipment by logging in remotely into our SCADA system. This does help reduce operational costs, minimizes downtime, improves water quality, and enhances overall efficiency in managing the water resources. This is essential in meeting regulatory standards and ensuring the safety and health of the community and population. This is just a quick screenshot of our one water plant in the Ronda Lake water plant as it comes in from Ronda Lake. If you can see here from the intake, this is coming from Ronda Lake and then it kind of goes through and out. So the intake pressure is very high to come into our water plant. It's 290 PSI and it's reduced down through a pressure reducing valve in 2 stages. And then it comes into the water plant about 90 PSI and goes through about 12 different pressure sand filters. And then after that, it's UV treated and then chlorinated and then sent up to our reservoirs. On the very right at the bottom there, after it's come out of our reservoirs into the distribution system, it goes through a monitoring vault, and that's where we monitor the plumbing pH levels, temperatures, turbidity and flows going out into the distribution system. So this is all real-time numbers that I can control online and see things that are.
Wow.
The powder basin treatment plant. So the powder basin treatment plant is kind of in the final stages of commissioning right now for Interior Health. The goal is to have it online for the ski season. And this will feed kind of the west part of the mountain, the Snow Pines area, and the lower village pressure zone. The water there is also filtered, UV treated and chlorinated, and it is also monitored by way of SCADA 24/7. That plant. A bit about quick overview, the water licenses that we hold here, the totals of it. So Big White holds about 847 megaliters of domestic licenses on the Trapping Creek, Ronda Lake, and Howland Creek Powder Basin water systems. 352 megaliters of that are on the Ronda Lake water source, and 494 at the Powder Basin source. The picture I just threw in there because this kind of gives you the controlled recreational area. It's kind of hard to see. The green box here is the existing controlled recreational area, right? And the red outline there is that one that's on the government website, the proposed 2020 master plan. That's not approved, it's just proposed. So that gives you kind of an overview of so the Big White watershed itself, it lays within the Kettle River watershed, obviously, and there are 2 watersheds consisting of 4 creeks, which drain the CRA. The Ronda Lake watershed, so that consists of Copper Kettle Creek and Whitefoot Creek, that goes drain directly into the Kettle River, and then Trapping Creek drains into the West Kettle River. On the west end of the mountain, the Powder Basin watershed, Howland Creek drains quickly into Two John Creek, and then that joins the West Kettle River, and then obviously the West Kettle River drains into the Kettle River. These creeks are the form part of the headwaters of the Kettle River watershed, which ultimately flow into the Columbia River down south. This kind of, we'll go back one. So the watershed here, it's a little bit hard to see, but this whole area would be considered the Howland Creek watershed, and this side is the Trapping Creek. It doesn't show where the Powder reservoir is, but it's more or less right here, and this would be Howland Creek, and it runs on the low side of Big White Road, about 10 kilometers down Big White Road before it joins, way up there into the West Kettle River. And West Kettle River headwaters comes from, I think it's St. Margaret Lake up in the Grey Stokes area.
Okay.
Is the headwaters to the West Kettle River. And then we have, Ronda Lake and Trapping Creek here. Which join the West Kettle River down here, and then these, Copper Kettle and Damfino Creek and Whitefoot Creeks all kind of drain the other way, and they drain directly into the Kettle River. What's that? This is what I wanted to see up there today. Big White's watershed itself, so the Kettle River watershed is almost 10,000 square kilometers. It's massive. And the Ronda Lake catchment is about 0.38 square kilometers, and the Powder Basin catchment area is about 1.26 square kilometers. So that's about 0.016 of the total catchment area of the Kettle River watershed. And then this is kind of what I wanted to show today up there, but this is kind of standing at the very top of the cliff chair and the Ronda Lake bowl. So this granite bowl from about here, and it wraps all the way around to about here. That's the drainage area for Ronda Lake itself. So it's just that big granite bowl that drains into the lake there. And then off in the horizon there would be the Christian Valley, and then the mountains, Jubilee Mountain and Mount Moore, and those places over the other side of that would be the Grand View. So that's more or less a big view of the entirety of the river watershed there. The Granby and Kettles more or less come from Cherryville area. Forget the creek. Next slide there. A little bit about the climate or the biogeoclimate up here. So we have two biogeoclimate zones on the mountain. One's the Engelmann spruce and subalpine fir zones, and the other is the alpine tundra zone. Trees found in the lower zone are typically the Engelmann spruce and subalpine fir and the Lodgepole pine, while the trees in the upper zone are the white bark pine, Rocky Mountain juniper, and some Engelmann spruce. And when you're up there, you can see that they're all kind of dwarfed and stunted and a little bit deformed because of the harshness of the environment in the alpine area there. This slide kind of shows the ecological reserve on the backside of the mountain there, where the borders of that are. And then this kind of shows the different trees, the Engelmann spruce and alpine tundra. And this ecological reserve basically is a protection area for some of this Engelmann spruce and alpine kind of subalpine tundra zone. Bit about where, so the watershed is located on Granite Dome. The top of the mount is made up of exposed bedrock, small patches of accumulated organic matter, usually covered with mossy grass directly on top of the bedrock. The original overlying sedimentary layers were completely removed by weathering and just the glaciation processes. The drainage from these upper elevations is determined by the granite bowl that formed in the granite dome surrounding the lake, and then the mosses and grasses are found in the upper alpine regions above 2,100 meters. It's not the greatest picture, but it kind of shows some of the grass and mosses around the bedrock areas, and it's very thin sedimentary layers in this and around this big rocky dome. Not a lot of organic up there.
Gord,
Yeah.
do you want us to hold our questions to the end, or can we ask questions as you go?
Maybe we hold them to the end and we get through, and if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll just write them down.
Yeah.
Good.
I'll be prepared.
Good.
The Ronda Lake catchment area is capable of producing an average annual runoff of 328 megaliters. The live storage of the basin when it's full is about 350 megaliters. In the wintertime, though, only about 263 megaliters is effective storage, because by March, there's about 9 feet of ice on the lake. So that 9 feet of ice is more or less trapped water that we can't utilize. So that's where that 263 megaliters comes from. This is a big overview of, this is the entirety of the catchment area for Ronda Lake. It's a good photo of it. The elevation reservoir is about 2,041 meters. The surface area of the reservoir when it's full is about 30,000 square meters. The top of the watershed is 2,300 meters and the drainage is 0.38 kilometers. There's one hydraulic zone, and the main slopes ranging from 45 degrees to 70 degrees. And it's filled during freshet. So this kind of shows you the summit here. And then the watershed kind of wraps around the dam here. This would be around the lake dam. And then the watershed from the saddle here. So this is kind of the size of the watershed. And my favorite ski run. Due to the high elevation of Ronald Lake Reservoir and restricted nature of its access, it has very low risk of contamination. There's virtually no wildlife activity during the winter and very little during the summer. Vehicle access is restricted to all mountain roads within the CRA, and then there's no commercial mining or logging or cattle grazing in the CRA. The hazards to the raw water in the Ronald Lake watershed are low, due to it being controlled in the CRA. Activities within the watershed for Ronald Lake are limited to skiing during the winter and hiking during the summer. And there are no mountain bike activities in the catchment for the Ronald Lake in the summertime. Hiking and mountain biking kind of kicks up too much dust. It's kind of just the small little trails for walking is all. So over to the Powder Basin biogeoclimate, it's more or less the same with the exposed bedrock and small patches of organic matter covered in moss and grass. Thing that's different is more or less the drainage area of the upper elevations is determined by two gullies that run north and south. And they collect the runoff. One starts at the base of the Falcon Chair on the west side of the mountain, and the other one's about 50 meters to the east of the base of the Powder Chair. And I have a slide that I can show kind of where those drainages come from there. It shows the difference in the catchment area size. So Powder Basin catchment area is capable of producing average annual runoff of 922 megaliters, so almost 3 times the amount of Ronald Lake. But the live storage of the basin is quite a bit smaller. It's only about 215 megaliters of storage there, and then again, due to the ice, only about 161 megaliters is effective storage during the winter time. It sits at an elevation of 1,850 meters. There's about 26,000 square meters of surface area when it's full. The top of that watershed is about 2,300 meters, and which the drainage area is 1.26 square kilometers. It only has one hydraulic zone as well, and the main slopes are a lot shallower, from 25 to 45 degree grade. And then it is also filled during the winter or during freshet. That is a good summer picture of the old Powder Chair. It's built there. And you can see how popular the Powder Chair is. Due to the high elevation of the Powder Reservoir and the restricted nature of access, it has very low risk of contamination to because of vehicle restricted access and mining, logging, or cattle grazing there. This shows kind of behind all the people there, the reservoir, right behind all the people there. Hazards to the raw water and the Powder Basin watershed are low because it's contained within the CRA, and activities are limited to skiing and hiking in the winter. There's the one mountain bike trail that comes up on the high side of the Powder Basin catchment, which is called Bumblebee, and we moved that quite far up from the catchment area. And it will be run in behind where our treated water stored. This photo is a pretty good photo of Big White itself. It shows powder basin here, and then this would be Howland Creek drains here, crosses Big White Road about 1.5 kilometers down, and then it travels the low side of the road to where it connects into the West Kettle River, about 10 kilometers from here. This, and then the catchment area, kind of this gully here, and then runs up to the top and then down through this gully. So it's more or less this whole area here is the powder basin catchment, and then this dome here is kind of the Ronda Lake catchment area. It goes in relation to how it goes there. A little bit about runoff estimates. So the water can leave the watershed in a number of ways, including surface runoff, groundwater flow or evaporation, and evapotranspiration. The evapotranspiration includes both evaporation and transpiration through vegetation. The amount of runoff increases with elevation, as there's less evaporation at higher annual precipitation, resulting in greater runoff. For the Ronda Lake Reservoir, the catchment area, which has an average elevation of 2,150 meters, the annual runoff is estimated to range in the depth of about 1,000 meters. And then the powder basin is pretty close to that. The average elevation is 2,100 meters and would have a runoff depth of 950 millimeters. These estimates are conservative and should be safe until to utilize until more accurate runoff readings are taken over time from the reservoir spillways. And we do have a plan in place that we'll probably implement next year of more accurate readings from our spillways. A little bit about the environmental assessments we've done. There's been a bunch done over the years, but the most recent is was done in 2020 when they submitted the Big White Master Plan, which this environmental assessment is on the government website done by Cascade Environmental. It includes documentation of existing environmental conditions, and as part of the assessment, measures to assist the protection of identified environmentally sensitive areas are outlined. This has helped with identifying riparian zones, hydrology assessments, aquatic environments, vegetation, soils, trees, wildlife habitats, and border within the watershed. The surface water reservoirs were constructed to store fresh for residential water demand and fire protection at Big White Ski Resort. We continually sample, monitor, manage, and conserve, and conservation practices are imperative for safeguarding surface water reservoirs and watershed. This is something we'll probably end up implementing next year. So installing pressure transducers for the water level in the reservoir to verify volumes of water that passes over the spillway weir. The annual spillway volume plus the withdrawals to the water system and estimates of evaporation loss when salt rise would allow us to determine with accuracy the reliability of the watershed capacity and from this watershed. This will help us when assessing water reliability during a few things we've done. This is the big one this year, and you probably all noticed when you came in through the village paving stones.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Getting rid of the grass and no watering and maintenance there is pretty huge, and it's a good focus to keep looking that way for sure. It looks fantastic, and there's way less water maintenance there. We do meter all of our water up here, all residences, commercial areas. It's all metered, so we have a really good idea of how much water we're using. Our system is really tight. We take leakages seriously, and we deal with them right away for sure. So we know our system is pretty tight. We do also monitor impacts on the creeks downstream and groundwater wells that we have. We sample or measure groundwater depth from about 21 different wells. And we also sample from about 10 different creek locations. Starting just off the resort and about 10 kilometers down Copperhead Forest Service Road. So it's quite far away. Mitigating impacts on the watershed caused by hiking and mountain biking activities are essential for preserving the health and integrity of the ecosystem. Some of the steps and strategies to help minimize these impacts are staying on designated trails, trail design and maintenance, limited trail design, educating all the trail users, buffers around the riparian zones, trail signage, regular monitoring, and advocating for the watershed. Beneficial outcomes of all this are cleaner water, responsible watershed practices result in cleaner water, which means healthier ecosystem, and safer drinking water for the communities. Thriving ecosystems. By conserving watersheds, we create a thriving ecosystem that supports diverse wildlife and vegetation, and economic benefits. Sustainable watershed management can boost local economies through activities like ecotourism. So as we look forward to all the adventures and recreation that our watersheds offer, we'll also be looking out for them. Exciting times are coming by practicing sustainable and responsible recreation. We ensure that the fun never gonna stop up here. We make sure our watersheds stay vibrant and inviting for all generations to follow. And I think I'll leave this paragraph. I think we're gonna gear up and get excited to be. The photo to the, what?
Oh, wow.